Whenever we're in Gloucester Harbor, I can't help but think of the movie The Perfect Storm, the one that came out back in 2000.
Yeah, I completely understand that. That story depicted the loss of the fishing vessel, the Andrea Gale, back in October of 1991. And seeing these fishing boats today pulling in and out of the harbor and looking at the clouds in the sky, I mean, you can't help but wonder if the seas will turn angry today.
The Andrea Gale story reminds us that the sea can still be a dangerous place for a boat, even in these modern times with radar, sonar, radios, advanced weather reporting, and so on.
Sure, yeah, definitely. Accidents still happen, and sea captains sometimes push their luck. They take risks with their ships and crew.
So today's story must be about a boat.
That's exactly why we're here, Ray. We're in Gloucester Harbor in Massachusetts, looking for a ship that was once crewed by ghosts. Hello, I'm Jeff Belanger, and welcome to episode 274 of the New England Legends podcast.
And I'm Ray Auger. Thanks for joining us on our mission to chronicle every legend in New England one story at a time. Did you know most of our story leads come from you? Well, this one did. Thanks to Matt Morish for emailing us about this story. We're grateful when you get involved. It takes a community to keep these stories coming week after week.
Now, before we go searching for a sailing ship crewed by the damned, we want to take just a minute to tell you about our sponsor, Nuati Herbals.
Jeff, the holidays are coming up.
They certainly are.
And that means you're going to want to have plenty of Nuati Herbals tea on hand to keep you sane, but also they make great gifts too.
There's the flavored tea sampler from Nuati Herbals that includes peach nella, blueberry cinnamon, chocolate chai, strawberry moon, honey and spice, and root berry tea.
And don't forget their Remedy tea sampler that includes 19 of their most popular teas like the Healer tea, Cloud Walking tea, Laughing Coyote tea, Toxaway tea, the Warrior tea, and so many other great products made from all natural ingredients designed to give you balance and help simmer some of life's stresses.
Even making their tea is therapeutic. You know, boiling the water, steeping the tea, and then sitting down to something warm and soothing makes a big difference in my day. And you know what else? If you want ideas on Nuati Herbals gift packages, you can always call Kimberly or Rod at 314-962-5229, and they'll put something custom together just for you.
Let Nuati Herbals help support your healthy lifestyle. Check out the Nuati Herbals website to see all of their great products, and you get 20% off your order when you use the promo code LEGENDS20 at checkout. Visit NuatiHerbals.com. That's Nuwati Herbals with an S.com.
The sea by the shores of Gloucester seems pretty calm today.
Sure, but we know that can change in an instant.
Yeah, absolutely it can. Even well-seasoned captains and crews can get caught off guard. And before we jump into this week's adventure, I thought we should take a short walk over to the south side of Stacy Boulevard to the edge of the harbor and check out the Fisherman's Memorial.
I've seen pictures of this statue before, and it's featured on the TV show Bewitched.
Oh, sure.
There's a fisherman holding a ship's wheel. He's wearing a hat and rain gear. Inscribed below the statue, it reads, "They that go down to sea in ships, 1623 to 1923.
Right, the statue was placed here in 1923. Obviously, there's been another almost century of history since then, which includes more accidents and more losses of life.
Now, I'm reading some of the statistics on Gloucester. Man, this is staggering. So over 5,000 people have been lost to sea from ships hailing from Gloucester Harbor. Between 1860 and 1906, 660 ships sank.
Wow.
And a single storm in 1862 claimed 15 schooners and 120 men.
The city of Gloucester commemorates all of these losses with the memorial here, plus they keep a running tally on their website that lists all of the information known about the sailors and the ships. The Andrea Gale is on that list, of course.
Over 5,000 people lost. I feel like every one of them could be a story.
There's no doubt about that. Included on this list of those lost are 9 schooners who were all lost in the same incident back in 1869. So let's head back there and take a sail on a schooner named Charles Haskell.
It's early March of 1869, and the schooner Charles Haskell is making its second voyage ever out of her home port of Gloucester Harbor. The Haskell is a fishing vessel heading for the bountiful waters of George's Banks under the direction of Captain Clifford Curtis.
Fishermen can be a superstitious bunch. As they set sail, maybe somewhere in the back of their minds of the crew of the Charles Haskell is the story of their ship being cursed.
Cursed? Already? It's only been a few months.
Yeah, well, if not cursed, then maybe born under a bad sign. During the ship's final inspection after construction was complete, a workman slipped on the deck, fell, and broke his neck. An event like that spooked some crews who refused to work on her.
Yikes. But when the seas are calm and the winds are good, it's easy to put thoughts of curses out of your mind.
Sure. Plus, George's Bank is producing. Fishing schooners are quickly filling up with fish. It's March 6th when the Charles Haskell reaches George's Bank to start fishing. The wind is blowing from the east-northeast, and the schooner drops her anchor. And before the anchor touches the bottom, the fishermen have already landed 2 codfish. While that sounds promising, the fishermen are a little unnerved because when the fish bite before the anchor hits bottom, some say it's a bad omen and means there's going to be a gale today.
The Haskell isn't the only ship to know these are prime fishing grounds. As we look out on the horizon, I can see dozens of other schooners, all after the same thing. The ships are spread out, but there's more than you can count.
Still, fish after fish are coming out of the sea and filling the hold of the Charles Haskell. It's a good day for fishing, which is keeping the crew's minds off the fact that the sea swells are growing larger as the afternoon wears on. And the wind is picking up too.
The captain orders the foresail to be reefed, which means that the sail can be hoisted at any moment's notice should the ship go adrift in the oncoming storm. The biggest threat in these waters isn't so much going adrift, but the dozens of other ships nearby. If one ship is tossed into another, it's curtains for both boats.
It's 9 p.m. The Charles Haskell is dealing with hurricane-force winds. Sleet is pelting the crew like tiny rocks. Some of the schooners are starting to drift. Their anchors aren't holding them in place, and to make things worse, when one schooner sees another drifting toward them, they're obligated to cut their anchor line so they can get out of the way. 2 drifting ships quickly becomes 4, and so on.
All hands are on deck aboard the Haskell. There will be no sleep tonight. They're in the teeth of a mighty storm. Their only chance is to ride this out. The Haskell's crew keep their signal lights lit so other ships can see them. And now the Haskell's anchor is dragging. It's 10 p.m. when the anchor snags something on the bottom and sends the bow of the ship high into the air.
Suddenly, signal lights from another ship appear dangerously close. The rolling waves are tossing these boats like toys. Captain Curtis yells out, "Hard up!" ordering the helm to steer hard to try to evade a collision. But in the fierce storm, no one could see that the oncoming ship was under sail trying to maneuver. A wave suddenly sends the Haskell towering up, just as the other vessel dips down into the trough of the wave. Everyone on board the Haskell holds their breath, waiting to learn their fate, when the Haskell drops down almost on top of the other vessel, slicing her in 2.
Though there's yelling aboard the other ship, no words can be heard over the raging storm. The crew of the Haskell can only watch in horror as the other ship and crew are dragged under the inky black and foaming waters. Plus, the crew of the Haskell still doesn't know their own fate. 2 of the Haskell's crew, George Scott and John Winters, rush below deck to see if their hull has been crushed in during the collision. If it has, then it would only be a matter of minutes before they join the fate of the crew of the other ship below. The men see no sign of water below deck. They even rip up some of the floorboards of the forecastle's floor to see if there was damage, but there's none.
The Charles Haskell was well built. When she dropped down on the other ship, her bow acted like an axe and sliced the other ship in 2. No one had ever heard of such a collision that didn't doom both ships.
Though the Haskell isn't leaking, she's not out of the woods by a long shot. The main boom and the rigging on the starboard side of the ship has been ripped off the ship by the wind. Some of the loose rigging is knocking into the hull of the ship and threatening to create a break that could sink the ship.
Under the power of 2 sails, the Haskell plods on until dawn, when the storm finally passes. The crew are exhausted, and with so little sail, it takes her a week to limp back to Gloucester.
9 vessels went down in George's Banks during this horrific storm, and 90 men were lost. The schooners A.E. Price, the Andrew Johnson of Salem, and the Martha A. Porter were 3 ships lost that night. Which one was taken down by the Haskell was a mystery for the moment. The Charles Haskell is soon repaired and ready for sea once again, but her reputation among the rest of the fleet is dark. There's a cloud over the Haskell.
A few weeks after repairs, the Charles Haskell is back on George's Bank fishing once again. This time, the seas are much calmer, but the fishing is still quite good. By the end of the day, the ship's hold is on its way to filling up with cod. The crew turns in for the night, ready to fish again in the morning.
It's midnight. It's quiet. The night watchman is at his position on the deck scanning the ocean, but not too concerned given the calm seas, when suddenly he sees some glowing apparitions of fishermen walking on the ocean.
They're walking right toward the bow of the Charles Haskell.
Oh man, one of the ghosts just climbed over the bow of the ship.
And look, there's another one doing the same thing.
The night watchman can only watch and question his senses.
The ghosts make no sound. They file over the bow of the boat.
This is incredible. The ghosts look like they're taking up positions on the Haskell. That man over there looks like he's tending to the sails. There's another over there that looks like he's opening up the fishing bait.
That ghostly man is standing behind the helm. And more of the ghostly men look like they're hauling in fish. This is the eeriest sight I've ever seen.
This is so spooky. The night watchman is running below deck to rouse the others. Pretty soon, the entire crew of the Haskell is witnessing this ghostly crew tending to their duties. After a few minutes, the ghostly crew and their skipper dissipate into the night.
It's midnight the following night, when once again the ghostly crew of the damned boards the Haskell to tend to their fishing duties. But the crew of the Haskell wants nothing more to do with this ghostly business. They demand the skipper point the bow toward Gloucester right away. The captain agrees, and home they head.
The Haskell's crew are petrified. What if the ghostly crew takes over the Haskell and claims it for themselves? What if they're thrown overboard by the spirits? Would the Haskell become some kind of New England version of the Flying Dutchman? Even under full sail towards home, the ghostly crew continues tending to their former duties.
All night they sail with the ghost crew. The Haskell passes Thatcher's Lighthouse, and then Eastern Point. And just as the Haskell is approaching Gloucester's Harbor, the ghostly crew begins to shake their head in protest. They don't want to lower the sails. But the skipper of the Haskell demands his crew to take the sail in as they approach the docks.
Look at the ghostly crew. Their shoulders have slumped.
Yeah.
They're walking towards the bow of the Haskell and climbing over the side and heading back into the ocean.
Oh, look at that. They're heading southwest in the water, away from the boat. That's the direction of Salem. And that brings us back to today. Because the ghostly crew seemed bound for Salem, that convinced the crew of the Charles Haskell that the unknown ship cut in two during the storm must have been the Andrew Johnson out of Salem.
After the Charles Haskell made port again in Gloucester, the tales of the ghostly crew boarding the Haskell made it all around town pretty quick. Soon, no one wanted to work on the ship. No skipper wanted anything to do with it. So the Charles Haskell was sold to a company in Nova Scotia. No one ever heard if the ghostly crew of the damned still boarded the cursed ship.
Most of what we know about this story comes from a March 7th, 1899 Boston Globe article that covered the 30-year anniversary of the storm and disaster at sea, leading to the haunting of the Charles Haskell.
And we know from this memorial in Gloucester today, and from the running tally of lives lost kept by the town, that the sea is still incredibly dangerous. Fishing vessels are still lost at sea, and people die in these waters. The Charles Haskell wasn't the first, and it won't be the last.
And that haunts us for sure.
And that takes us to After the Legend, where we take a deeper dive
I get it.
into this week's story and sometimes stare off course.
Sometimes. After the Legend is brought to you by our Patreon patrons. Our patrons help us with our production, hosting, and marketing costs. Basically, everything it takes to bring you a new story each and every week. Couldn't do it without them. Our patrons get early access to new episodes, plus bonus episodes and content that no one else gets to hear. It's just $3 per month, and your support goes a long way. If you can help the cause, just head over to patreon.com/New England Legends to sign up. Okay, Ray. Do you know about the sacred cod?
No. Tell me about the sacred cod.
The sacred cod. It sounds like a Massachusetts band, right?
A Cape Cod band, yeah. I used to love seeing them at the Melody Tent.
Right. They were great. They opened up for Cheap Trick, obviously. So the sacred cod, it's 4 feet 11 inches, and it's hanging in the House of Representatives chamber in Boston, Massachusetts State House. It's been there, they say, from the very beginning. The original was allegedly lost in a fire, but the one that's there now was installed in 1784, and it's there to remind everyone, all the legislators, of course, the rich fishing tradition of Massachusetts. Cape Cod, obviously, Gloucester, all the harbors, all these fishing vessels. Man, I remember the movie The Perfect Storm.
Oh, Great movie. I don't know if
Great.
I've seen it more than once. I don't know if it's needed.
But you would.
For like a second viewing. I probably would now because it's been so long.
Sure.
But it's got a lot of great people in it. For one thing,
George
Marky
Clooney.
Mark.
Yeah, Marky
George
Mark.
Clooney.
I believe he goes by Mark Wahlberg
Does
in the
he?
movie.
Okay.
Yeah. The Funky Bunch had already left him.
The guy that's in John C. Reilly.
Yep.
And I love his earlier work. I love him now, but to
Yeah.
see him in those movies back then, he was always a great character actor.
Yep.
And there's another guy, too, that was in Armageddon, and he was in Roseanne, had big hair in Roseanne. I always forget his name, but one of my favorite character actors that I can't name.
People are Googling right now.
It's that guy,
That
like
guy.
that guy.
Yeah. No, fantastic movie, and just so powerful. Like, these were guys doing their job.
Yep.
Right? Fishing out of Gloucestermen, right? Fishing out of Gloucester.
No matter what.
Yeah.
Storm's coming, still have to go out. We got to
That's-
feed the town.
Yep, that's it. We got to get the food. This is how we make money. We bring the fish home. And of course, you get it. Like, sometimes we push it. We push our luck. With this, like, I know it's supposed to be bad, but I can handle it. And then
I think we've all done that
Absolutely.
driving.
Yeah, sure.
Storm's not going to be that bad. We'll
Right.
go out. We'll get there.
Yeah, or just pushing your luck, like, I'm not too tired to drive, right?
Yeah.
Like anything is so that idea that we push our luck, especially to provide. You know, I get when it's work related. You know, sometimes we push it too hard,
Right.
And some people pay with their lives, and the memorial in Gloucester is staggering. Right? I mean, of course, that thing is iconic. The guy at the ship's wheel. But then when you learn about the names, and then you go to the website, 5,000 plus. I mean,
lot.
I think it's literally like 5,300 and counting.
Right.
You know, and what they did was years ago, for the first few centuries, it was just men lost on boats at sea. But then they started compiling, like, you know, swimming accidents around the harbor, women that were never really cataloged before. Just numbers just kept growing and growing. Thousands of people,
And
over
it
the
still
centuries.
remained a fishing port, like a very popular,
Absolutely.
famous fishing port. Even though people kept dying, let's keep doing it.
It produces, right?
Yeah.
It's a job. It's a way of life. I mean, tell those guys to do something else, right? They'll be like, I know it's dangerous. That's
Yeah.
why we do it. The show Deadliest Catch, right? I mean, that show is so wildly popular. And
Well, there's a guy from Gloucester,
yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
and I know his cousin or something. I met him once. Dave, I think is his name.
Right.
But he's been on that show for a very long time.
Right.
But I think he was based out of Gloucester.
Yeah. But you got to fish. You got to bring in the fish. You got to work.
That's your job. That's your livelihood.
And that's it. And sometimes those ships sink even today with like satellite phones and GPS and everything else. Like, they can still get into trouble. They can get swamped. Anything can happen. It's absolutely, you know, a dangerous job, and people risk their lives for not a lot of money, right? I mean, the crew don't make a ton. I mean, they make a lot in a short period of time, but then they has to survive, you know, the year on that.
Right.
I can only imagine having something like that.
Do you ever consider it? Because I remember hearing jobs about the Alaskan pipeline
Yeah.
and fishing, and they're dangerous, but you're only out there for 3 months and you're set for life after that. Oh, I'm going to travel with my buddy, mom and dad. You're a junior in high school.
Yeah.
Go do your homework.
You're set for life because you're going to die.
That's right.
Yeah. Wow, I got 10 grand and you're going to croak tomorrow.
Yeah, my whole 150-pound self was going to go get on a fishing boat for 3 months in the winter. Yeah.
Sounds romantic, but yeah, then you get to the point where you're like, oh my gosh, you know. And but yeah, when you go to Gloucester today, it's an adorable Massachusetts, New England seaport town. It looks like so many calendars that you've seen.
Yep.
But there's parts of the harbor where they still fish.
Yep.
It's still the job. It's dirty. It's
Miserable fishermen.
Yeah.
It's not as quaint as you think.
No.
On those docks, I wouldn't bring my kids there. Maybe.
learn some new words. Yeah, but it's grimy and dirty and a real
Stinks a little too.
Absolutely stinks. Real hard work. But that's the thing about Gloucester. It's got almost two identities because part of it now is, of course, quite wealthy and expensive to live there, and then you've got this absolute blue collar fishermen that are out there every day hitting the water at whatever time and still heading out to George's Bank and still fishing the same grounds that have been fished for centuries by other folks from Gloucester.
Yeah, I wonder how nerve-wracking it must be knowing how many deaths, and that the law of averages says that it's going to happen again.
Sure.
And will it be you?
I think when you look at memorials, that's some of the power they have. So if you're a Gloucester fisherman, if you were in my family, I'd make sure we walk by that memorial, I don't know, once a week.
Touch the statue.
Right? Be like, hey, see all these names, see this, see that. Like dad, brother, like whoever, friend, just be like, hey, just take a look. Like, let's try to keep your name off these memorials. This happened to all of us. You're driving late at night, right? You're coming home late from a gig or something. and you're tired. You're a little drowsy.
Yep.
And then you pass a cross on the side of the highway.
That'll wake you up.
Right? And you're like, oh, a cross someone put because someone died right there.
Right.
And you go, oh man, wake up, put the window down, crank the music,
Yeah.
slap
And
your
so
face.
it serves many purposes.
Absolutely.
Because I know that they were trying to remove those from highways, and there's always an argument about that. But it's a great reminder.
They keep us safer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they do. And it costs the state, the highway, nothing, right?
Yeah.
Because the loved ones of who lost someone usually put them up, those memorials. And yeah, every time you see one, you're just like, oh, right. Not everyone reaches their destination. Man, they should put that memorial like right at the mouth of the harbor where the fishing boats are.
Right.
It's like reminder, when the storm reports are bad and
Yeah.
when you see the seas getting rough, this happens. It still happens now. I mean, yeah, we've gotten a lot safer and better, but come on, don't become that statistic.
Yeah.
Live to fish another day. And so, but yeah, this story, but the Haskell one, wow, spooky. Right?
Yeah.
Like this is different than we've done ghost ships. We've done ghost ship stories before, but this one.
Well, the fact that the ghosts aren't in your face haunting you.
Right.
They're just kind of getting on ship and doing their thing. That's what creeped me out the most.
Yeah.
Is that they didn't even care about you.
Yeah.
But they're still working the ship.
I mean, how that's the biggest tragedy here, right? Like it's over and I'm just going to keep working, right?
That's it. Over and over and over again.
Can't even retire. So what a profound story. And the details in the article, the Boston Globe article, which again was 30 years later, I'm sure a lot of that became sort of legend at that point. But there were still people around who remembered the story. And that Globe article just goes into so much detail. One of the points that it made was that when the ships collided, and that's the biggest danger when the sea is littered with schooners fishing, and suddenly they're swelling and they're getting blown around. Like when you knock into each other, you're both dead.
Yeah, and you don't know what's on top of a wave that's about to come down on you. You can't see that.
So when the two ships collided, there was a thought that some of the men from the doomed ship could have possibly have jumped or swam for the Charles Haskell and been okay, but those guys were probably thinking like, our ship might be in better shape than theirs.
Right.
Even though we're sinking and taking on a ton of water, for all I know, they're already under.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so, and everybody's thinking the same thing. Two ships just collided in a fierce storm. We're dead.
Yep.
And then the Haskell's looking around going, why are we not dead? Oh my gosh. Boy, was this ship built well. And plus, they just got extremely lucky.
Yeah.
I mean, the way they collided, it just
cut it right now.
A 1 in a million, collision that would have doomed, if any other angle, right?
Right.
But yeah, so powerful. What a story. What a spooky story from Gloucester at sea.
Be sure to subscribe to our podcast wherever you get your podcast because it's free. Did you know that you are our best advertisement? When you tell others about our show, when you post and share your favorite episodes of our show to your social media, it goes a long way to helping others find us. We appreciate having you in our community.
We absolutely do. And would like to thank our sponsor, New Audi Herbals. Thank you to our Patreon patrons. And our theme music is by John Judd.
Until next time, remember,
the bizarre is closer than you think.